Welcome to Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope you discover cooking box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we are going to make biscuits and gravy because they're just delicious and they're a great southern dish and great for the weekend. Or weekday because they're so fast. So the first thing I'm going to do is make my buttermilk. Most buttermilk biscuits call for buttermilk, obviously, but you can kind of make your own buttermilk if you don't have buttermilk, which is something I never have in my house. So I use my mom's recipe for this. So I'm doing 3/4 of a cup of milk, just whole milk. It was just a little bit extra. And then I'm going to add to that 2 teaspoons of vinegar, and that will actually like sour my milk pretty much right away. You want to do this right when you start though, so you at least get like 5 minutes of your vinegar to really sour your milk, I guess. And you could use lemon juice, I've seen. And I've also, so there's my 1 teaspoon and my 2nd teaspoon. I've also used plain, I just got splashed with vanilla or vinegar. Plain yogurt. And that's really thick, and I always feel like it's too thick. So when I'm using plain vanilla, I do, hang on, I gotta get a little spoon. I do 3/4 cup yogurt, and then I add like a 1/4 cup of water, just because I always feel like I want to thin it down a little bit. So you just let this sit here, and as soon as you pour your vinegar in, you can almost see it like just gets kind of weird, but you just let it sit there for a few minutes. Okay, now we're gonna make our biscuits, which are just awesome any time of the day. If you want to just make biscuits, you'll be really happy with that too, because they are just the best, I don't know, one of the best bread products, I feel like. They're just really easy and no sweetness. You know, they're just a really nice, savory kind of bread that are just really tasty in my opinion. All right, so I'm gonna put that over there because I might need some flour once I start kneading my stuff. So 2 cups of flour, just regular all-purpose flour. I do 3 teaspoons of baking powder, so basically a tablespoon of that. And then some recipes call for cream of tartar, but mine doesn't from my mom, so we don't put it in and they turn out lovely. So what else? Then I need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, there's my oven telling me it's really hot. So with baking powder biscuits, you have to have a hot oven, and I do it at 450. I mean, that's like crazy hot, but I think it's just like, boom, it makes them like just pop up and they just look gorgeous. So that's what it's telling me, because I preheated it, like I started a few minutes ago, because it takes a super long time, it feels like, for my oven to get up to 450, and these don't take very long. So I always feel like I have to do that early, because this does not take a full 10 minutes to get ready, and I feel like my oven does. Okay, so I'm doing 3/4 cup of salt. Look at me measuring. That's pretty good. And then that's it for dry ingredients. So I just take my pastry blender and I just kind of blend my dry ingredients together. I mean, I like this recipe because there's no egg in it and there's no sugar in it, and it's a really basic, like, good pioneer food. So maybe that's why it was really popular. Biscuits have just always been super popular. Okay, then I'm taking 1 stick of butter, and mine is salted. I always use salted butter. Some recipes you're not supposed to, but that's what I have in my house, so that's what I use. And I chop mine up. You certainly don't have to. I didn't always do that, but I have discovered it just makes it a little bit quicker, which really doesn't even matter. But anyway, 1 stick of butter. And my mom's recipe calls for actually 2/3 cup of cold butter, and it does have to be cold butter no matter how much you use. So 2/3 cup is actually like 10.5 tablespoons. So when my daughter makes this, she's always like, Mom, we gotta add the full 10.5 tablespoons. And for some dumb reason, I'm like, oh, let's just do 1 stick. Like, to get another stick of butter out just seems like such a hassle, which is really goofy. But I've never really noticed that her biscuits turn out way better than my biscuits, although hers probably are a little bit butterier, because they do have 4 extra tablespoons of butter, which is kind of a decent amount. So my point is, you can do 1 stick of butter or 10 tablespoons of butter, whatever you feel like doing. And then you can tell me if you notice a difference Okay, so then you take your pastry blender and you're just pushing all these down until you get this mixture that kind of has these little chunks of butter like all in it. It's never going to be like cake where it's all like perfectly smooth, and that's okay. You really do want these little chunks of butter because then that's what gets stuck in your biscuit, and then when you throw it in the hot oven, it just like boom rises up, and I don't know, just seems to be perfectly what you want. Okay, so that is my dry ingredients, and then the easy thing is you just add your I was going to show you guys, there was just a teeny tiny bit of like curdling on top. So you should end up with basically 1 cup of liquid is what you're going for. And then you just pour that in, no big deal. Dump it all in, and then you just take a spoon and you just mix this up until it basically becomes a dough. And then you're going to put it on your counter and knead it for like 5 times, 10 times. And then you're just going to put it right on your cookie sheet. I don't even grease it because, well, probably because my mom's recipe says don't grease it because she's got more butter in hers. But even when I make it this way, which is how I do it all the time, it doesn't cause any problems. It doesn't stick or anything. So I can tell that this is a little bit sticky. So probably because I was just a tad over on my milk. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour down there, because you do want this to be pretty much a dry batter, but not so sticky that you can't deal with it. And not wet. It's not supposed to be like muffin batter, you know, which is a very much of a wetter thing. All right, and I got to get like every little bit because I don't want to lose like 1 bite of these biscuits. They're just so good. All right, so now I think that's going to be good enough. Now I'm going to just knead this really quickly. And the beauty of this is you don't need to knead it very long. You don't want to knead it very long because you don't really want to work it like a yeast dough. You just kind of want to get everything, and I always do this when I get so much on my hands to get it off of there. You don't want to like overwork it, and you don't want all those layers of butter and dough to get too mixed in. So I'm thinking I'm going to call it done. And I don't know if you can see, but I can see like little chunks of butter in my dough, and that's just perfect. That's what I want. So pretty much like that. I don't know. I guess it was 10 times. I wasn't really counting. And then once you are satisfied with that, then you just kind of spread it out, and it will kind of rip like that a little bit, and that's okay. Spread it out to maybe like a 8-inch circle or something, and then you're kind of going for like 1/2 inch tall. So I was just see if it's like up to my thumbnail. You can make these as thick as you want, but they really will like poof up, so you don't have to have a really thick batter. And then I just take my little round biscuit cutter. You could just take a knife and just chop it up and make little square biscuits. I do that sometimes. Okay, I can tell already that this is a little bit thicker than normal because I can see that I'm not going to get my 10 to 12 biscuits that I normally do. So the beauty of biscuit making is they are just different every time, and that's okay because they're still going to be delicious. And especially with biscuits and gravy, you don't necessarily need a specific size. So I'm going to kind of do this in my middle. Actually, we're just going to kind of put that in there. So normally I end up with about 2 more biscuits. So I just didn't push it down all that hard. And then all these extras I just kind of round out to look like a biscuit that I went chop, but I didn't. So those are kind of my misshapen ones. And then this is a little bit small, so I think I'm going to rearrange. These are always kind of the neat rustic looking ones when you pull them out of the oven. But this one's a little bit bigger, and I want this little bitty one in the middle of my pan so it doesn't bake too much. Okay, so I got 8 beautiful biscuits, and they're going to be gorgeous. So I'm going to pop them in the oven right now. And I wish we could like watch them bake. Oh, it's like really hot. Whew. Okay, I think I do it for 10 minutes, 10 to 12 minutes. All right, so, okay, let me make sure that's what that says. Yes, 10 minutes. Okay, okay. I said 10 to 12, but that was how much I was supposed to knead it. Okay, and look at, I almost lost a whole bite of biscuit there. I didn't see that on there. Oh well. Boy, that's just gonna have to go in the garbage over here. Okay, so now I need to wash my hands because I need to make my gravy stuff and I just need to get this cleaned up, so I'll be right back. Okay, we are back and I'm ready now to make my sausage gravy. So I've got my pan trying to get hot here. I got a pound of just Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage, pork sausage. So you can use whatever pork sausage you want. We've made our own kind of out of venison stuff sometimes and stuff we get right from the farm, but whatever, just a pound of pork sausage. And obviously if you don't want to use the whole pound, just make a smaller amount and that's totally fine. Okay, so this isn't very hot yet. So what I'm gonna do is cook this down and then I'm going to like make it ground burger or ground sausage, because you obviously don't want big chunks. You want nice little chunks to get all over your gravy. And then you don't drain this or anything. So this is basically like making a hot dish. I mean, you kind of do like, I don't know, wild rice hot dish or whatever. I do that starting just like this, where I have my hamburger in here and I cook it up and then I add flour and then all the grease and stuff from the meat you do not drain off, and that becomes your fat, and then you add your flour and then you add your liquid and that becomes your gravy, and it's super easy. So I don't know, I just think biscuits and gravy are a really simple thing to make. I mean, the biscuits themselves took me, I don't know, 4 minutes, 5 minutes to put together, and they're just so good. And one thing I've started doing is to my biscuits, when I am stirring with my spoon, I add in some chopped green onions and some cubed cheddar cheese. And we do like maybe 1/3 of a cup of cheddar cheese or maybe 1/2 a cup of like little cubes, maybe like the size of your pinky. You don't want them too big, but then all the cheese kind of like pops out and they look really pretty and the onion looks pretty and it tastes really good. So you can kind of manipulate your biscuits to whatever you want, really. I mean, I don't think you could add crazy stuff, but you can definitely add the cheddar cheese, and you could probably do grated cheese. I just like the look of like that chunk of cheese in the biscuit, but that's just a different way to do it. So we're gonna just wait for this to cook because this is gonna be a little bit slower, and I've still got 5 minutes on my biscuits. Should we open the oven and see? Oh no, we shouldn't. No, let's not do that because we want all that heat to stay in there. I was gonna say like, let's look and see what they look like, but we don't want to do that. We're gonna just let them cook. All right, so I'll be back in just a few minutes once my meat is all cooked up. Okay, we are back. It's been almost 5 minutes because my timer is just about to go off. My meat is pretty much all browned. I've just been chopping it up kind of like this, breaking it into these nice small pieces like that, so that will make a really nice gravy meat. You don't want, for this, you don't want big chunks. You want it really nice and little. So, okay, there's my timer. I have not opened my oven door. I've really wanted to, but this looks really nice and browned. Okay, so now let's check our biscuits. Yum. Okay, they're really nice and tall, but they're just a little bit pale. So I'm gonna give them another, minute. Another minute in there. Okay, and in the meantime, now my meat is all ready, and I'm not gonna drain any of it because I want that good greasy stuff to be the butter for my roux, and then I will make a nice gravy. So with a pound of meat like this, I usually start with like 1/2 a cup of flour, and then I just sprinkle it over it and see how much it takes to kind of cover it. Because I don't really always measure this stuff, like, it's kind of bad, but I just don't really measure it. So that's almost, I didn't use all of my 1/2 a cup. Okay, before I get those out, I'm gonna just stir this up. What you wanna do is get your flour on every single piece of meat because it's gonna be the thickener. And so you want every piece of meat to have a little bit of coating so that when you add your cold milk, it will just thicken immediately and you don't have any gloppy, chunky flour bits. So that looks really nice, but I want a really nice, nice thick flour, a nice thick gravy. So we're just gonna add that other little bit because because I don't know, I guess I always feel like you can't add too much flour. I mean, you could add too much flour, of course, but like that. So now, I don't know if you could see zoomed in, every little piece of meat has like a little coating of flour, and that's what you want. Okay, now I gotta take these out of the oven, I think. Oh yeah, we're gonna call it good. Okay, ooh, that's hot. Oh my gosh, look at these puppies. Look at, they're so gorgeous. So I could probably leave them in there and get just a little bit browner. Whew, it's hot. But I'm a little impatient, so I'm not going to. Okay, so we're gonna let those sit for just a second. What you want is not so much of a pale biscuit like this one, but more the brown on your edges like these, and then you really know they're ready. They're nice and brown. Okay, so now I'm gonna start with 2 cups of milk, and then I'll probably add another 1/3 cup and possibly a 1/4 cup. So you can start with this and just, you can pretty much pour your first 2 cups right in, because there's so much stuff here that it's not really gonna be important to like stir so perfectly. And you know, just stirring with this thing. I keep my spatula really flat so I can make sure my milk isn't burning or anything crazy like that. And I'm getting all this liquid mixed in with my coated meat. And then that's gonna turn into a beautiful gravy in about 5 minutes, maybe 10. So if you've been paying attention, this doesn't take very long. It's a really fast recipe. That's why I really like it. And biscuits are really fast and easy. Okay, so we're gonna finish that off. That's just barely over another cup. So we're gonna go ahead, so if you can see here now, my fat's like rising to the top, and it's all kind of yellow and stuff. So like there's some yellow stuff, and that's just fine. That's what you want. You need that good fat in there to make a nice roux and then make a nice gravy. So we've already made the roux, now we're making the gravy. Okay, so I'm gonna just make sure this is stirred up, and now I'm gonna add in my 1/3 cup of milk, and then I'm gonna wait just a little bit and see how much it thickens, because this is where you can make gravy as thick as you want. And this is how you make gravy. If you just want to make like a milk gravy, you could use, you could use milk to make milk gravy, or you could use chicken broth or beef broth to make a chicken or beef gravy, I guess. But you just make a roux and then you add your liquid. All right, so these have been sitting on here about a minute, so they're about time to come off. I just want to make sure that my stuff is not sticking, and it's not. I can feel that it's like really nice in there. Okay, so I guess I'll just leave that right there. So I'm gonna take my biscuits off of my pan, but I mean, look at these beautiful things. I just like how like this isn't risen up, but that's really crazy. And then this one is like absolutely perfect. It just went like straight up all the way around. You get those nice layers. So that's like my perfect restaurant quality. And then this one's a little bit slumpy again, like, oh, a little bit tired on that side, but that's okay. This one too. So everybody was tired on that side today. They didn't just like shoot up, but they look beautiful. But this one did. This guy got it right. He just went pretty much straight up. And then I think this is where I added those extra little ends of it. And then this one, you can definitely tell, that's when I had those 3 pieces and I like brought them together, but it still looks really pretty and cool. Here's another one of my like lopsided ones. But I just love how they just show all the I don't know, I just think baking powder biscuits are just awesome to make and really fast and absolutely delicious. You just can't go wrong. So like I make these a lot to serve with like a salad or soup or hot dish. Oh my gosh, look at this stuff. Okay, see how orange it is? Like all this fat's like coming up to the top, and that's just fine. But now I'm gonna get my whisk out. This is a non-stick, nice and soft whisk, so I don't wreck my non-stick pan. And now what you wanna do is just stir enough so that you don't get any lumps. You probably won't at this point because you've already been stirring enough, but if you didn't stir, like if you just ran over there and did something and forgot, you could get lumps in your gravy. So when you're adding your liquid to make any kind of gravy or sauce, it's really important just to stir for like the first 2 or 3 minutes. Then you can take it easy a little bit like I did when I was dealing with my biscuits. But stirring and that initial adding of the liquid is really important. because that's when your flour is like, ah, liquid, and so you got to just like get it all combined in together. So that's my very scientific way of talking about stirring in your liquid. Okay, so this is way too soupy, so all I need to do now is wait for the heat to work its magic, and in a few minutes when I stir it again, it'll be like boom, thick. And then I'll see if I want it thinned down, and then if I do, I'll just add more milk. So I don't know, it's not very exciting to watch gravy thicken. So I think we'll just come back in about a minute and see how. I'm going to stop stirring. We'll come back in about a minute and see how thick it is. All right, we'll be back. So it's been about a minute, and just like before, all the fat's kind of rising to the top, and that's just fine. So now I'm going to stir it. I haven't stirred it for like a minute, and I'm kind of curious to see if it's any thicker. A little bit, but not what I want. And if you don't stir it enough, you'll know, because when you go to stir it, you'll have like a layer, you'll feel it on the bottom of your pan of that gravy kind of like getting cooked onto the bottom of your pan. And that's kind of okay. I mean, I don't know, every time I feel that, I just stir until it's all stirred into my gravy, because that's kind of the good thickener that is on the bottom of your pan now, and you want it stirred into it all. But if you got distracted and you came back in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, you would probably just have a layer on your pan, and you just stir it all up and get it off of the pan, and then it works just fine. And then if you're gone like 10 minutes, then you would probably have a burned gravy, which I've never actually done that, which is surprising. I haven't, but so anyway, we are going to just be a little more patient. But I'm like super hungry, and the biscuits smell really good, and then this smells really good. So it's really hard to be patient. In fact, I'm gonna salt this just a little. Like the sausage is pretty salty, and then I didn't use salted butter in that. That was in that. Anyway, just a little bit of salt. Oh, and then you can add the pepper, of course. Lots of people like kind of peppery biscuits and gravy. So you could add pepper now, but I'm not going to yet. I'm going to just wait and see what happens here. All right, we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so now it's been long enough that it's actually starting to steam and it's starting to bubble, which is like a guaranteed sign that it's like hot. And you need that heat to like, bloop, like become that, I was gonna say syrup, oh my gosh, become that gravy. So now when I stir this, you should see a difference. You see how it's thicker now? So it takes time to make a gravy, because when you pour that cold liquid in, you need it to be cold so that it can kind of work with the flour and stuff, but it takes time to heat all that liquid up. And then once the liquid gets hot, then that's when it's like, boom, the magic happens, and you get this nice, lovely gravy. So now you can see how it's way thicker. I'll get my little gravy ladle. Oh yeah, see how that's just a really, it's not like sludge. I mean, sometimes I've had biscuits and gravy at restaurants where it's just like a hot dish, like just, you know, like no liquid or movement to it almost. And I personally don't like that, but maybe you do. And if you do, just don't add as much milk to this. This was only 3 cups. I've never added more milk to this. It ended up being only the 3 cups. And then if you either want a thinner gravy, or you just need more gravy because you're feeding like 10 people, then you just add more milk. And if you need to make really like a bigger gravy amount, you could always just add like a tablespoon or 2 of butter to the meat, and then add more flour, because you're supposed to kind of have the same amount of fat and flour when you're making a roux. So if you want to make more, you wouldn't necessarily have to like double the recipe with 2 pounds of meat. That'd be really a lot of meat. You just add more butter to basically give yourself some more fat in here, and then you add more flour, and then you would add your 4 cups of milk, or maybe even 5, and then you'd have a gigantic pot of gravy, sausage gravy. And then sometimes when this is like leftovers, if there is leftovers, I'll throw this in a soup, you know, like what I call leftover soup, just whatever's in the fridge, it becomes a soup, and like, yay. And so this nice thick stuff works pretty good. All right, so enough babbling about all that stuff. I think we are going to try it and taste it. I just got myself, I don't really have a spoon, so I'm just gonna, oh, this is my fork to taste it with. That's all right. I just want to taste the gravy to see if it's salty enough, really. Okay, that wasn't a whole lot of gravy, so it was a little bit hard to tell, but I'm going to add a little bit more. Like, that was probably, I don't even know, 1/4 teaspoon. So I have not added very much salt. So you can always salt this when you're, have it on your plate too. So now if I was serving this up for like a real family meal, which we're going to eat pretty soon, I would pour this into a nice bowl and I'd put those on my little cutting board or whatever, and then serve it all up, and that's your delicious meal. But right now, we're just going to eat it right out of the pan. So I'm going to take my little cute one here and just kind of break it up. And like, it's so cool, they all just come off in the little sections that they were when they began. So there's my biscuit. Now I'm going to add my gravy right on top of it. And people do this different ways, I suppose. Some people like put it right on top of the whole. Some people cut it in half and put the gravy and then put it on top like a strawberry shortcake. So whatever. Biscuits and gravy to me are like this, just a big glob of goodness. Okay, so hopefully this isn't too crazy hot. Oh my gosh, these biscuits are just so good. Here we go. Let's see how it tastes. Feels like it's going to be really hot. So my gravy is very meaty. Like I always seem to make a lot of meat in my gravy. I don't have a lot of just like gravy, but I guess that's just how I like it. So if you want to have more gravy and less meat, just make sure you add the other cup of milk, and then see if that's too runny, then you would have to add a flour and butter at the beginning. Okay, enough talking, let's try it. Okay, I don't want to stop eating. This is so good. It's so simple. And like that good breakfast sausage taste. It's delicious. Okay, there it is. Baking powder biscuits with your gravy. Good old biscuits and gravy. So thank you very much for watching Box Free with Stephanie. I hope you like the show. I really hope you make biscuits and gravy and your family thinks they just took a trip to like South Carolina or something. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for watching. And I will catch you guys next time. All right, thanks. Bye.